Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande broke things off in October of 2018, just after 4 months of dating. After the whirlwind romance, Ariana seems to be doing just fine. With many awards, a new album, and record-breaking musical achievements, Ari is moving on with style. But what we're all wondering is, how's Pete? He seemed pretty upset by the breakup, but how else has his life been different post-Ariana? He's encountered some pretty rough online harassment, has covered some of his Ariana tattoos, and for a while, it has felt like Pete may not get back on his feet again. However, lately we've seen Pete winning a little bit more. Here is how Pete Davidson's life changed forever after Ariana Grande. New to our channel? Be sure to subscribe to get more great videos like this one. Now, let's look at how Pete Davidson's life after Ariana Grande has changed forever. You may have first heard of Pete Davidson when he was cast as the youngest ever Saturday Night Live cast member in September of 2014. Or you may have only heard his name when he started publicly dating Ariana Grande in 2018. Either way, many now know Pete Davidson as Ariana's ex-fiancé. Almost everyone is curious as to how his relationship has affected his life forever. So where is Pete these days and what's going on with him? Shortly after the breakup, Pete made plenty of jokes in his stand-up routines and in SNL skits about how his life is going so far. At one event in West Hollywood, Pete made a joke about his current living situation since it was obvious that Ariana had kicked him out of their New York apartment. He said, "Well, as you could tell, I don't want to be here. There's a lot going on. Does anyone have any open rooms?" Sounds like Pete is in need of a roommate. When the couple first got engaged, Ariana bought the couple an NYC apartment that cost a whopping $16 million. With Ariana being the primary breadwinner in the couple, it was unlikely that Pete would be able to keep the fancy New York pad. So where is Pete living now? After the breakup, he headed back to Staten Island to live with his mother for the time being. It's said he might be crashing on some friends' couches here and there, but it probably won't be long before Pete is back on his feet and in his own place. Another thing about the Pete-Ariana breakup is that these two fell hard and fast for each other. Along with that came certain public proclamations about each other that are pretty permanent. Both Ariana and Pete are fans of tattoos, Pete more than Ariana as you can tell, and they got matching tattoos almost instantly. They got small hand tattoos, ink on the back of their necks, and some we don't even know about. Why did we not know about them? Well, because they only lasted as long as their relationship did, which was, not long. Let this be a lesson to everyone. Don't get tattoos at the beginning of your relationship. Pete has one bit in his stand-up where he claims his tattoo choices may be bad luck. Following a Harry Potter themed tattoo he got, the actor Alan Rickman, who plays Snape in the films, tragically passed away. Pete may feel so strongly about his tattoos being ill-fated that he thinks one of his and Ariana's matching tattoos is partly to blame. One tattoo the couple got on the back of their necks read Mille Tendresse. It was a tribute to one of Ari's favorite movies, Breakfast at Tiffany's. Recently, Pete got the word cursed in bold black letters to cover the old tattoo, probably hinting at his bad luck with ink. Both Pete and Ariana have gotten cover-ups on most of the tattoos they have together. This has been another joke that Pete has made on tour. Pete recalls a certain magazine asking its readers if they think Pete's first Ariana tattoo was a mistake. The readers responded to the tat, a bunny mask behind his ear, with 93% of them saying essentially, duh. Pete's stand-up included this story and how even his best friend said to him, "Yo, bro, turns out you were stupid." Pete's self-deprecating humor about his relationship mistakes often gets him a lot of laughs. Pete Davidson seems to be pleased with a few aspects of his life post-breakup. When he and Ariana got engaged, Pete's popularity went through the roof. It led to a lifestyle that Pete was not used to. The comedian made several comments about how his newfound all-star level of fame was something he was not fond of. He already couldn't adjust to the moderate fame that came with him being named SNL's youngest ever cast member in 2015. He was quoted as saying, "I hate all of the attention," and that he felt pretty weird about it. So when he was launched to front-page news status thanks to Ariana's global fame, that was a little too much for him. One of Pete's closest friends reportedly said he's a private dude who feels more at home being on stage doing comedy in small clubs and being around close friends and family. These days, Pete is readjusting to his life that he seemed to prefer, at least when it comes to his level of stardom. Pete Davidson will always have Ariana Grande's name attached to his whether he likes it or not, and sometimes he'll be connected to the other people that Ariana was close to as well. On February 28, 2019, at one of his comedy shows, Pete got heckled in the middle of his stand-up routine. The heckler made a comment about Ariana Grande's ex and late rapper Mac Miller, causing Pete to stop the show dead in its tracks. The stories surrounding Pete, Ariana Grande, and Mac Miller are heavy and complicated. It's obvious that Pete won't stand for anyone turning it into a joke. After Mac Miller's untimely death in September of 2018, the relationship between Ariana and Pete became tense.
They eventually broke things off a month later. Some say that Ari couldn't handle an engagement while dealing with the trauma. Good thing Pete won't let anyone make fun of the situation, even at a comedy show. Following the heckler's comment, Pete immediately asked for that person to be removed from his show and refunded, as he didn't want his money anyway. He asked fellow audience members that if they wanted the show to continue, to call him out if they knew who it was, or that Pete himself would leave. The inappropriate nature of the heckler's comment motivated people to help remove him from the show, and Pete continued his set to applause from an approving audience. It looks like Pete's career and personal life will always have Ariana and any exes or friends from her life attached to it. It seems like Pete can handle the haters, though, and maintain a respectful nature throughout the whole situation. Perhaps the forever connection to Ariana Grande will be a bit of an advantage for Pete Davidson. Their romantic relationship may not have worked out, but it has given Pete's career a bit of a boost. He was able to make plenty of jokes and bits when their relationship was still alive, with lots of mentions of the pop star on Saturday Night Live and in his stand-up. Pete could always point out the things that people were already thinking, both getting ahead of any gossip and also making him more relatable. The obvious reference in their wealth was a big one that Pete joked about on Weekend Update sketch on SNL when he talked about Ari's new NYC apartment. He joked saying she pays like $60,000 for rent and all I have to do is stock the fridge. But now that the pair has split and Pete is moving on with his life, having Ariana Grande as a recurring theme in his comedy has been really good for his career. Just after the breakup, Pete Davidson performed for a charity event hosted by comedian, director, and film producer Judd Apatow. Pete's stand-up involved a lot of Ariana Grande material, and honestly, it's what we all wanted. He touched on the glaring difference in their star power, their apartment, and their pet pig, Piggy Smalls. He was able to touch on Ariana's hit breakup song Thank You Next in his self-deprecating style of humor, and commented on the genius of it. Here's the thing about the breakup song. Usually breakup songs, you know who it's about, but you don't really know, he explained to the audience. Bam, she named all of us. If you haven't heard Ariana Grande's single Thank You Next by now, you should just know that it mentions every single major relationship in her past, Pete Davidson being one of them. She mentions past boyfriends Big Sean, Ricky Alvarez, and Mac Miller as well. When the music video for the track came out, Ariana made some cheeky notes about each ex-boyfriend in a Mean Girls-inspired burn book, and her notes about Pete were especially eye-opening. Pete talked about this in some of his stand-up routines in January of 2019, saying that Ariana has changed his reputation with women forever. But it's not just because she's a pop star. Let's just say that future expectations that other women will have of Pete have been forever changed because of a particular opinion that Ariana shared about Pete and some of his features. This move by Ariana was another moment that Pete jokes about and considered to be totally genius on Ari's part. Pete is known for being able to find humor in the most negative situations, and this breakup is no different for the comedian. Turning lemons into lemonade is Pete Davidson's speciality, and we think friends, family, and fans are happy to see him back in his element. Pete will forever be connected to Ari in another way through Ari's songs. Obviously, we know that one particular song on Ariana Grande's album, Sweetener, is about Pete. Duh, the one titled Pete Davidson. But when Ariana released her 5th studio album, Thank You Next, just 6 months after the release of Sweetener, it had fans curious about some song themes. We knew that Pete was also mentioned in the single Thank You Next, again because, like we mentioned, she straight up used his name. However, as Ariana says that Thank You Next is her most confessional album yet, fans are digging through the lyrics. Arianators want to know so much about their favorite pop star. Which songs are about Pete? Which songs are about Mac Miller? Is this song about anyone at all? One song in particular has fans guessing it's about Pete, even if his name isn't directly mentioned. The song titled In My Head starts with a voicemail clip from one of Ariana's closest friends. The voicemail describes an issue that Ariana is having with being in love with a version of a person that you've created in your head. Fans couldn't help but think this song could be about Pete. When the pair initially got together, a lot of people thought that it was an odd match. Ariana is a glamorous pop star and Pete is a little more rough around the edges. It's possible that Ariana wrote this song about who she thought Pete was versus who everyone else knew him to be. In an interview with Zach Sang, Ariana explained the song saying, "I do a thing with people. I paint a picture of them and then I slowly learn they're not what I had thought." Some people thought the quick engagement between the two had a lot to do with Ariana's fuzzy image of who Pete truly was. Not that Pete is a terrible wonderful guy, but many of her fans and close friends felt that he wasn't marriage material, at least not for Ariana. Perhaps this song is calling out the idea that Ari knew this all along, but has a habit of hoping that people will change. Pete Davidson was quickly tied to this idea and may always carry the label of being what Ariana saw as an angel, while others saw the devil. Pretty harsh, but maybe this song isn't actually just about Pete. But we may never know, and Pete will always be tied to these lyrics. Do you think Pete is in any other Ariana songs? Whether you were a fan of Pete-iana or not, you have to admit that Pete Davidson's life is totally different now thanks to the pint-sized pop star. Ariana Grande has the star power to influence anyone's life to begin with. Dating, proposing to, moving in with, and then mutually breaking up with her has clearly had an impact on Pete's future. We know that there's no real bad blood between the two, and we hope Pete and Ariana can find happiness in life and work. Pete Davidson's life changed forever after Ariana Grande, but it's not over yet. What do you think of Pete Davidson's life after breaking up with Ariana Grande? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for stopping by The Trendy, and as always, thanks for watching.